do this. Hey, and welcome to this Money Monday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. And there is all kinds of crazy stuff coming to you today from Liquid Lunch. As you know, Liquid Lunch comes to you every day live, Monday to Friday, from noon to 1 Eastern from Midtown Manhattan's Newsmax studios. And today, of course, we're in the Question Tequila studio, as we are every single day, bringing you the best of news, politics, and what's going on in the markets. And today, the market, the Dow, is doing fine, still holding that 27,000 number, up just a bit. Tech stocks and weed stocks are getting smacked around just a bit also, but everybody's waiting for Wednesday when Jerome Powell comes out and talks about the Fed's moves. I think they may cut 50 basis points, but the expectation is 25. Either will be good for the markets. And Bitcoin, I want to send out an advisory, an alert. Just a few weeks back, Bitcoin was at 8,000. I thought if it broke out there and got above 10 and consolidated, it could go to 15. It broke above 10, and I thought it was on its way. But some recent moves by Donald Trump, to say that he's not a fan of Bitcoin. So Trump has sprinkled a little cold water on the Bitcoin fire. And then state legislators across the country and congressmen are, in my view, acting on behalf of the bank lobby and pushing some states to adopt state licensing laws to transact in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, which will have an extremely cooling effect on cryptocurrencies. And the way Bitcoin is trading right now, with some of the stuff that's going out there, there are only 10-bit licenses in New York, for example. Over 50 states, maybe only 500 people could potentially be allowed to do business in Bitcoin. And the IRS is also sending out notices reminding people that any gains they made on Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies should be reported. So the government is taking some proactive measures here to rein on the Bitcoin parade. And if I were to be anything right now, I'd be short Bitcoin. It could go right back down to that 8,000 level. So keep yourself aware, alert, and on your toes. And on your toes you will be, as we do every day. Frank Morano joins me, my co-host and managing editor of Liquid Lunch. Frankie, good afternoon to those in the East.
And good morning for the rest of the country. John, you alluded to the top story that I'm going to be speaking frankly about, and I have quite a few things to say about it. So this week, the Federal Reserve, as you just heard John say, is expected to cut interest rates. It's the front page story on the newspaper of record, the New York Times. It's the front page of the Wall Street Journal. It's the front page of publication after publication around the country. Here's the problem. This is the first rate cut that we've had since 2008. And the problem is we are cutting rates at a time where the Fed should be raising them. The problem is this. If the economy is not strong enough to withstand 2.4% interest rates, which is almost near an all-time low, then the economy is not strong enough. The Federal Reserve is a bubble-creating machine. The Federal Reserve, by keeping interest rates so low, is doing two things. One, it's feeding into our debt addiction. When I say our debt addiction, I really mean everybody. We've known, and John's talked about, the government addiction to debt for a long time. Republicans keep pushing for tax cuts and military spending. That all adds to the debt. Democrats keep pushing for spending on everything else. Bernie Sanders wants health care for all, wants free college tuition for everybody. Kamala Harris wants everybody to get a little help buying a house from the taxpayer. So there's plenty of government debt, but there's also lots of corporate debt out there. Uber is not going to be profitable for the foreseeable future, probably around the time that Justin Bieber is ready to go on Medicare. And yet, corporations that are suffering from debt all over Wall Street have no problem paying their shareholders in dividends. They have no problem paying their executives large salaries and big corporate bonuses, and they have no problem offering cheap prices for their consumers. So it's win-win for everybody, right? But it's not just the government. It's not just corporations. It's us. I sit here before you as somebody that has $39,000 worth of credit card debt. I see no way in the foreseeable future I'm paying any of this off. So who's the beneficiary? Well, Cece, our makeup artist, Lamont, our director, when we go out to lunch, who pays? I pay, not with my money, with borrowed money. We are in a spiraling debt addiction. What do you do when you have an addict? You wean them off the addiction. You don't give them more booze. You don't give them more dope. But that is precisely what the Federal Reserve is going to do. The reason this is so dangerous is because it's precisely the irresponsible borrowing that helped cause the 2008 financial collapse. In that case, it was the mortgage sector. The other reason it's dangerous is because eventually, whether it's a year from now or 3 years from now, there will be an economic downturn. There always is. Nothing only goes up. And if we have Fed interest rates at an all-time low and we're cutting them already, it's going to be a lot more difficult for the Fed to provide the stimulus that we need when there is a downturn. There was one guy who got it. This is about 3 years ago. Watch this.
Believe me, we're in a bubble right now. And the only thing that looks good is the stock market. But if you raise interest rates even a little bit, that's going to come crashing down. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble. And we better be awfully careful. And we have a Fed that's doing political things. This Janet Yellen of the Fed is doing political by keeping the interest rates at this level. And believe me, the day Obama goes off and he leaves and he goes out to the golf course for the rest of his life to play golf, when they raise interest rates, you're going to see some very bad things happen because the Fed is not doing their job. The Fed is being more political than Secretary Clinton.
And he was right. The Fed is still being political. The only difference is now the stock market is being pumped up with this bubble-creating machine on President Trump's watch instead of President Obama's. Rather than cutting interest rates, let's talk about how we end our country's debt addiction.
Fascinating. That we're not always for Trump, Frankie. You know that. I mean, hey, I'm with you. The president should not be forcing the Fed chairman to make decisions. And I've been saying for probably 2 years now, raising rates gives the bank more reason to take risk and lend to small business owners. So I'm all for raising them a little bit. And then when we have a problem, we cut because there's some fat in there that we can cull off and not affect the economy. And this just shows we're not this big Trump supporting show just because I have a Trump pen. It's kind of funny. My viewers like it. But when point comes to not agree with the president, we're more than happy to do it. And in this one, I hope Jerome Powell acts in the best interest of the country and not his job. But you know what, Frank, talking about not being super pro-Trump, huge bombshells news out over this weekend. A lot of people may have missed it, but this one hits really close to home right here on Liquid Lunch. You know, I've talked about Dr. Patrick Byrne, the CEO of Overstock.com, many times. And according to first reports at sarahcarter.com, there's a bombshell story out there that my friend, mentor, and intermittent business associate, Dr. Patrick Byrne, CEO of Overstock.com, you can see him pictured here. Probably all know him. He was working for the FBI as a confidential asset and at the direction of the FBI and the Justice Department to get close to accused Russian agent imprisoned Maria Butina. Needless to say, this isn't just blockbuster news for the whole country, but knowing them both, it's pretty big news to me as well. I couldn't believe it, but here's what we know. In 2004, I met Dr. Patrick Byrne and began consulting and assisting him in numerous different projects in Overstock.com. I met Dr. Patrick Byrne in 15 years. We've become not just business associates, but incredible friends. And I've known this guy for 15 years. We fought battles in Washington against market manipulation, naked short selling. I've seen this guy personally act as a citizen on his own dime to help our federal government in ways that would make most squirm to their core. To me, everything I've seen from this guy over the 15 years I know him speaks volumes about this character, and all of it is positive. Never been a Democrat or a Republican. An American patriot is what I've always known him as. Doesn't care about labels, titles, parties. He's an American patriot. And I thought I knew this guy well. Knew him as good as anyone. I had no idea he was working with the FBI. Not a clue. But now we learn that he was enlisted by the FBI to start a relationship with Maria Butina and get close to her. And it appears that he repeatedly told the FBI he didn't detect any criminal activity or anything untoward about Miss Butina. I think he said she's not the Red Sparrow or something. Sometime in 2015, acting at the direction of the FBI, he starts a relationship with Butina. She's representing herself as a gun rights activist and as someone trying to improve relations between America and Russia. In all candor, we joked that since there's no gun rights in Russia, she's probably just some deputy's attractive assistant. And here's where it gets ugly. I arranged for a meeting with Dr. Byrne and Chris Christie, at the time New Jersey governor and candidate for president. I met him at the 34th Street heliport. He shows up with Maria Butina, and apparently, unbeknownst to me, I was flying to see the governor of New Jersey, candidate for president, with two spies, one American and one Russian. And Governor, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I had no idea. And here's where it's scary for all of us in my final minute. Our government was so desperate to get a purported Russian spy in prison. The deep state wanted a Russian in prison, and they jailed Maria Butina. Now, keep in mind, Patrick, he was no Trump fan. He even gave a couple $1 million to Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson. But Robert Driscoll, Butina's attorney, is alleging that he asked the government on multiple occasions if they collected any human intelligence on Butina, and he was repeatedly told no. Now, my one helicopter partner is in jail for sinister crimes, political lobbying, and conspiracy to act as a foreign agency. And the other, Dr. Byrne, is saying that the government obstructed justice to put her in jail to further an investigation into Donald Trump obstructing justice. This is scary for all of us, because if the government collect info on you, and then when they find it's exculpatory and works in your favor, they don't provide it to your attorney, that's not justice. In fact, it constitutes a Brady violation. And it's usually the sort of thing that leads to convictions to being thrown out. We're going to keep you posted on this story. We're going to keep you posted on all the other things that come out. Check out sarahcarter.com for the full story. And you keep it right there. Liquid Lunch coming back at you to mix it up right after this.